Okay, so I'm going to make sure I record because I know a lot of people can't be here live. And I'm actually going to share my screen because I have some slides so I can walk you right through exactly what I'm talking about. I'm very visual. So first of all, I'm really excited because this is great. I love doing this kind of stuff as a, I don't know, like kind of like a prize for our Black Friday sale. So congratulations, you get to watch this recording and own it for as long as you want. I'm actually going to take you guys through how I meal plan for the entire month, which is kind of cool. I learned this technique and I used to do it different ways. I actually used to never meal plan because I thought I just didn't have the extra time or the brain power. Hello, mom brain, especially when I was working full time in real estate. I was like, I can't even. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and then take you through step by step how I do it for the month and then how I do it week by week as well. So you'll just kind of see what works for you. Also, don't psych yourself out. I think you're going to find this is actually super easy. But again, don't be like me and just don't do it because you psych yourself out. Okay. So this is why I used to struggle with meal planning. Like I said, I didn't think I had the extra time or the brain power to do it. 3/4 of the time I would make a plan and then we would never stick to it. So I was like, why bother wasting my time doing that? I would get frustrated. My kids are picky eaters. So I don't know if you can relate, but they are, and they would never eat the things that I plan. So again, it was like that frustration where I'm not somebody who loves to cook either. So it was just like something that was already kind of hard for me. I was like, this is kind of stinky because nobody wants to eat it and we're not sticking to it. And I'm putting all this effort and time into it. I also was like, well, what if I make this plan ahead and then we don't feel like eating the meals that we planned? So then again, I spent all this time doing this and then I get to Thursday, I'm like, I don't want to eat that. I don't feel like that. And then honestly, I just had no idea where to even start. So if any of this sounds like you, then this webinar is exactly what you need. Okay, so here's how meal planning can be a game changer. And I mean, I know we talk about this all the time, so you're probably familiar with it, but just to kind of recap, again, for me, that's what kind of motivated me to take the time to do the meal planning each month and each week was knowing these things in the back of my mind and just reminding myself that, you know what, it's not a lost cause and it is worth it. So meal planning, it does take time, but it saves you time in the long run. I don't know if you've ever done this. Like I used to find this a lot when I would be between like, I'd come home, get the kids home from school or like have to run out for real estate. And then I'd come home in between and have to make something for dinner. And then I have to run out again. And like trying to think about what I was actually going to make after a busy day, I was like, I can't think of what I want to make. I don't even know if I, thought any protein for this dinner. So yeah, meal planning can save you money. It really does actually save you money so that you shop only for the things you need. And then you're actually going to make and eat those things, right? And less waste. So again, this was another thing that psyched me out of doing this for a long time was I was like, oh, but I have these like great ideas. And then I end up throwing all this produce out and it seems wasteful. But if you actually meal plan and you figure out what you're going to use and I'm going to show you again, like how I do it, then you'll find that you actually waste less, save time, save money. And also, of course, it's huge with helping you with your health goals, right? It's going to keep you out of the drive-through and out of the takeout all the time. And you're just going to become a lot more intentional. It's just one less thing to think about. So you already have that set up and you can plan ahead. Okay, so the bonus is your 1 month rotation that you're going to figure out, you can use on repeat each season. So if this terrifies you, again, this can be tweaked however works for you and your family. But I know for us, like we don't like to eat the same things over and over again. Well, that's not true. There are some things we will eat over and over again, but I don't want to eat like the same thing like 3 times in a week, or like if I'm having it, I want to have it, spaced out. So you can actually get a rotation going where you will have your monthly plan and then you can repeat it. And I say for each season because it allows you to use foods that are more seasonal, yeah, and then change it up so you don't get bored. So for example, like in the summer, you might do more grilling, and we have more fresh fruits and veggies, especially like where we live in Canada, right? So there's more things that you might, have fresh salads and raw veggies and raw fruit and stuff. And then in the winter, you might be having more squashes or root veggies and comfort foods and stews and using your crock pot and those sorts of things. So this is kind of cool because you'll have this rotation. And even though you might eat the same foods over, a few times in that season, by the next season, you're already kind of on to the next type of food. Does that make sense? So I love that about this, because I am all for making it easier. Okay, so here's step one. So you'll have this recording, but I mean, when you watch it, if you have a piece of paper, it might make life easier. Or what I did the first time I kind of figured this out was I just watched it through, and then I went back with my piece of paper and I followed along, and then I worked through it. So the first thing you have to figure out is how many nights you're planning for. So maybe you're like, again, a little bit like discouraged at the idea of planning meals for 30 or 31 nights in a month. And I don't blame you. That's like, especially if you do all the cooking, right? So I like to figure out, for us, we do like to have takeout, and we like to be intentional about it. So we set one night a week as takeout night. One a week, 2 a week, whatever. I don't know. I'll be honest, if you have goals when it comes to your health, less takeout is more helpful depending on where you're getting it. Anything you can make at home, you can usually, it's just a little bit better. But again, like I said, we do a takeout night once a week, and we know when it's going to be, and we can plan for it. The second thing is this idea of yo-yo nights. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's called You're on Your Own. Now, if you have really small kids, like, you might not want to be like, okay, so you get to pick your supper, and they're like, I want, cheesies and I don't know, peanut butter or something like that. But you would be surprised. This is like what we do with our yo-yo nights, is just kind of let everyone figure out their own dinner. It's just kind of a no pressure night. So leftovers, finding things in the pantry that we're like, oh yeah, like I meant to, use that pizza crust, or I meant to do this, or I meant to do that. And it just kind of gives you a night off from planning. So that gives you at least 2, possibly, nights each week where you don't have this like intense planning happening, which already is like a huge relief off your shoulders, right? Now, 3, this is something you can do that, again, I try to do, and I don't have a specific time of when I do this, but this is such a huge help too. And this is figure out pre-planned nights off. So if you're somebody who works Monday to Friday, or you work crazy shift work hours or those sorts of things, then you can actually, when you're on your days off, make some plans to do some freezer meals or batch cook. Like when you are making dinner the one night, make double, make triple, whatever. And 1 or 2 of those meals can get frozen or kept for later. And then, okay, on this night, I'm going to be pulling that, lasagna out of the freezer. Okay. So those are your first 3 things. So now you're looking, you're like, oh my gosh, it's almost like 3 nights a week that I could potentially have off. But again, this is going to depend on you, your family, and your situation, and what works best for you, which is kind of cool because you can tweak it for that. And then make sure you have an emergency night plan, because this is when things often derail. And I will tell you, we had a lot of emergency nights that were just total bus, like they were just really ugly. So, those nights when you're running late, or things go off plan, or you're like, somebody gets sick or something, you have to run out and do something, or you get caught, longer at work, that kind of thing. Plan for the occasional one. Not obviously, you don't know when these are going to happen, but have this, it would almost be like a backup plan, and know what you will eat on those days. All right. And then make or eat or make in those scenarios, so that you're not in a panic figuring it out. How many times have we had that we're like, oh my God, what are we going to have for dinner? We haven't even fed the kids. And it's like 6 o'clock and you're freaking out. But if you have this kind of idea of, okay, like we know this, frying up some eggs, toast, and some fresh fruit, we can do that in like 10 minutes. It keeps us out of the golden arches. You see what I mean? How you have that, like that backup plan, that emergency night plan. So I love that. Okay, step 2. So I actually have a little graphic here to even show you. Again, I'm a very visual person, so hopefully this is helpful. But here's how you can look at this. So step 2 is how many nights per week does that leave you with that you actually have to plan? So if you have one takeout night and one yo-yo night each week, that's 5 nights per week that you need to cook or figure out what you're planning or having, right? Adjust this to your situation. Maybe you do 2 takeout nights, or maybe you do one of those nights is like a pre-planned meal, like the freezer meal, or that you've batch cooked. So it's kind of like leftovers or that sort of thing, so that maybe you only end up having 4 meals. Breakfast is always the same for me. I have the same breakfast. I just kind of change it up a tiny bit, but then I don't really have to think about it. And lunch is usually just pieced together for me based off leftovers. And I have like a rotation of a few things. So it makes it super simple. And I really do find that just having your dinners planned, it will be like a huge load off of your shoulders. All right. So here's the next piece, because I was a big stickler for, again, I told you I don't love to cook, right? So the idea of cooking like 4 different meals for like everyone in our family, it just makes my blood boil. So this is how I have made this work for our whole family. And we most months stick to our entire meal plan, which is crazy for me, and have very minimal waste. So this is the part where you're going to gather recipes and meals. Okay. So I actually gave each of, and again, this depends on the age of your family and everybody you live with, but I asked the members of my family to take a pic well, I wrote it down, I guess, and they just told me, but to list their favorite meals. And then I listed my favorite meals. So don't forget yourself, but not just my favorite meals to eat, my favorite meals to cook. Because there's some meals where I'm like, yeah, oh, sure, I would love to have surf and turf, but do I want to make that? No. Right? Like there's like certain meals and I'm like, oh, like I actually like that. And it's not too difficult to cook on a busy weeknight, that kind of thing. So this is the kicker, because you don't want to be planning a whole bunch of meals that you hate cooking, right? So write down meals you actually like to cook. And then highlight meals that the family all agree on. These may be like unicorn meals, I will tell you. It was funny though to see, like, when I went back, I was like, oh, everybody likes tacos, or everybody seems to like breakfast for dinner, or 3 out of 4 like this. And I could highlight them. And all of a sudden I had, a list of some meals I could put into the rotation that were like, I like to call them like no argument meals, because everybody would eat them. It would be pleasant. And I didn't have to worry about fighting everybody to eat them. So, that's how you kind of get to that point where you can kind of like use your lists to come together. I also make a list of our favorite takeout locations, because like I said, we do every week, but we would have this conversation. We would plan our takeout night, and then we would be like, okay, well, like, where do you want it from? Oh, I don't know. Like, where do you want it from? And it would be like this back and forth, and it would waste so much time and make Christopher and I are both, my husband and I are both Libras. And I always joke, like, we can't make decisions. So we're like back and forth, and it was just such a waste of time. So we made a list, and we're like, okay, pick something off the list, like one of those places where you don't get disappointed by the food ever, and it's worth it. And you have your favorite meals from there and that kind of thing too. And then also come up with ideas for yo-yo nights. So for example, at our house, like some of the things for yo-yo nights would be like grilled cheese sandwiches and soup, peanut butter and jam sandwiches. My one son loves them. Leftovers, like charcuterie boards, so crackers and cheese platters, or breakfast for dinner. French toast is a big one in our house, or like eggs and turkey bacon and that kind of thing. All right. Step 4 is to compile all of the favorites into your master recipe options. So a lot of our recipes, we do repeat a lot of recipes just because we know we like them and tweak them and those kinds of things. We're not super adventurous. But if you keep a list, so I just have it on a piece of paper, all the meals that everybody likes, and I keep it with my meal planning stuff. It's just like, honestly, 2 sheets of paper. Keep a list or a little booklet handy, and you'll have this to pull from. Okay, so you have all these meal ideas when you go to sit down and do your meal plan, and continue to brainstorm for recipes from cookbooks, recipe sites, Pinterest, that kind of thing. So if you're like, okay, like my kids really like they like tacos. Well, maybe they would like, and they like pulled pork. Maybe they'd like pulled pork tacos. And you can start coming up with ideas that way. Or maybe I can tweak this recipe a little bit by doing this or that. And now all of a sudden I have a little bit, of a different recipe. Google sheet pan meals because they are less mess and less fuss. I love especially like a sausage and veggies one. So easy. You only have one pan, you get lots of veggies in. The sausage gives flavoring to the veggies too. Get recipes from extended family that everyone enjoys. So that was another thing I did. My kids and my husband all love my mom's cooking. So I reached out to my mom and I got some of her recipes just to kind of be like, okay, like these are some things to put into our rotation. And then I added all of these to my master spreadsheet, which was literally a piece of paper where I just wrote everything down that we all liked or that a lot of us liked. And I mean, again, there are some nights where it's like somebody's favorite than the other, but that's okay. Or if you're somebody who's like really techie, you could even do this in a Google spreadsheet, and then you could even hyperlink recipes that way. So you'll have like, where it goes on the internet. Okay. Step 5, don't forget simple meals by heart too, right? So these don't have to be ones that you need recipes for, but these could be things like spaghetti or breakfast for dinner, or maybe you have a famous chicken that you make that everybody seems to like, French toast, like I said before, or crepes, homemade pizza, tacos. Keep it simple. Okay, that's my biggest tip, is to keep it simple. And then step 6, let go of overcomplicated expectations. Okay. So I don't know why, and I don't know if this is everybody feels like this, but I have had conversations where people are like, yeah, I've totally felt this way. We feel like dinner needs to be like gourmet each night, right? And there's all this pressure to be like, I need to be feeding my kids like all of the food groups, and they're not getting the nourishment they need, and they're picky and blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. If you keep it simple, you're more likely to stick to it. And you're also going to be starting to expose your kids to more foods and those sorts of things, or even your partner. Because I know some people they're like, oh, my kids are grown, or I don't have kids, but my partner's the picky eater. The more exposure they have, then they start opening up their palate and they start being more interested in different foods, right? So keep your sides super simple. Things like roasted veggies, rice, quinoa, potatoes. Honestly, potatoes are great. Let go of feeling like dinner needs to be a gourmet meal each night and just start looking for simple options. Like if you have an Instant Pot or a crock pot, there's things like Instant Pot ribs, chicken stir fry is great. Again, that's something that I don't always think of. And I'm like, oh, we actually really love chicken stir fry, chicken Caesar wraps, taco salad, Korean beef, enchiladas, teriyaki salmon. And then look at what foods are in season too. So I talked a little bit about this before, but not just what foods are in season, but what are your favorites each season. So there's nothing worse than being like, well, this is like the thing that's cheap right now, so I'm just going to grab like 3 of them, and you don't even really like them. Well, maybe it's better to just get like one of the thing that you actually do like. So if you're like an apple person, like get the apples that you like, because you're actually going to stick to them. You know what I mean? Make extra. Batch cook and do freezer meals when you have the chance for later. It's like that. So our book for the book club in our Fit Club this month is the lazy genius way. And it's this mom, and she talks about all these things. And really her point is, what can you do right now that will make your life easier for later? And something like batch cooking, which literally just means when you're making your dinner, you're going to make double the amounts you need so that you have stuff for either lunches later or to freeze and put away for later or whatever, but just so that you are getting 2 meals out of every time you cook. It just makes it so much easier for yourself. I think a big part of why a lot of us struggle with meal planning and dinners each week is because we feel this guilt and all these expectations over what we need to feed our families instead of just keeping things simple. Okay, step 7 is make your meal plan and shopping list. Okay, so if your week looks like mine, which is 5 meals per week, that means I'm responsible for. That means that I need approximately 20 meal ideas or recipes for the month, right? So 5 days per week, 4 weeks, there's 20. So Sit down with your lists and you just start plugging them into your calendar. Now, what I do is I actually sit down with our actual calendar beside me as well, so that I can see what nights are busier. Like, okay, oh, we have basketball that night, so I know we're usually in a hurry, or we have taekwondo this night, so or team call night, or we have an appointment this night at a town. So once I know that, or special occasions, so I'm not always like, oh, geez, I forgot we were supposed to go there for this or birthday party or blah, blah, blah. Also look at what your work schedule is like, right? And when will you have more time versus less? So I know for us that on those nights when we had sports, I had less time to get meals cooked. So I was looking for something that was easier and faster to prep. Look at your recipes for the coming week. And this is huge. See what you have in stock. Okay, go through your pantry, go through your freezer, go through your fridge, and then make your grocery list for the things you need to get in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, etc. So this makes life so much easier for me. Like when I'm making the grocery list, obviously, like we keep a running list of what we're out of. But then what I also do is I'm like, oh, okay, so we're having tacos. Let's use tacos because it's an easy example. Oh, we're having tacos, but we don't have any tortillas. So I put tortillas on the list because I know, oh, we don't have any green peppers. I'm going to put green peppers on the list. So now I know that these things that I'm going to get at the grocery store, we're actually going to use in the meals we have planned, right? So that I'm not just like, oh, and like I see grapes are on sale, so grab some. Well, grapes we do, but you know what I mean. The other thing is you can pull out the ingredients you need each morning based off of what you're having. So again, this has been a game changer for myself and my husband, because he knows that the list is there. It took a while. It didn't happen at first, but it took a while. He knows the list is there now. So he looks at it and he's like, oh, we're having, like last night we were having cheeseburger pizza. We used ground turkey on that. So he knew, and we always freeze our ground turkey because we buy it in large amounts, and he took it out to thaw. So it was out for me. No more guesswork at dinner time or being like, I was supposed to put the chicken out and you forget to. I actually put ours, when I first did it, I put it on our pantry so everybody in our family can see it. Now it's at the side of our fridge where everybody in our family can see it. And my kids even know to go to it, and they look at it and they're like, oh yeah, we're having this tomorrow night. Oh, this night's takeout night. And they get excited. So everybody knows where it is. The expectations are there. And it works so well. Okay, so this is just kind of an example just to show you what it actually looks like. So here's your 4 weeks. And I actually now what I do is I keep our takeout night usually on the same night each week. I like Thursday nights sometimes because it's often payday. So it just seems like a good time to have it. But here's some ideas. Okay, so you see I've got my takeout nights are plugged in. So there's one each week. Then I've got the yo-yo nights plugged in all on different nights based off of how busy our schedule is. And then there's things like breakfast for dinner, which we love. So I call it different things, but eggs, bacon, fruit, and veggies, breakfast for dinner. And then I've got like a couple, I think maybe taco night might be in there once or twice, barbecue chicken, corn on the cob. This was a summer meal plan, so it's a little bit more different. There's a freezer meal in here so that I know, and a freezer meal here as well. And then I just plug in all these other favorites that we have to fill in the spots. And I'll show you something in a second. I think it's on the next one. Okay, so troubleshooting and customizing. If there's a certain meal that everyone enjoys, again, I apologize, but taco night is the one I'm going to use again. Don't be afraid of adding it more than once. Okay, that's like breakfast for dinner for us. We add it more than once in the month. If you'd like to customize your meals, like lower carb, for example, then just make simple veggie substitutions like taco salad instead of having it in the shells or the wraps, right? Or veggie noodles instead of pasta. It means that I don't have to make a whole bunch of different meals. I'm just customizing it to the way that I might eat it based off of, what containers I have left, or if I'm following 2B mindset for plated, those kinds of things. Keep these recipes and meal ideas online. Like I said, if you're a computer person, you like tech, in a Google spreadsheet or in a binder so that you can go back to them over and over again so you don't have to keep redoing it. If you kept like a little folder on this, it would probably make life really easy. I just keep it in like 4 sheets all together. And then change it up each season, like I said, so that you can save money on seasonal foods and not get bored of eating the same things over and over again, and keep your meal plan up somewhere where the whole family can see it. Okay, last thing I want to share. This is how I do the weekly breakdown of this. So here I put that monthly thing up and everybody can see it, and it's planned for the whole month, which means it makes my weekly planning so fast and so easy. So, oh, I don't know what I did. Hold on. I don't know how I do that. Sometimes I just disappear it. Okay. So this is just a board that I got at Dollarama. Thanks, Jill, for showing me that. But you can do this on anything, piece of paper, a dry erase board if you want. I like to make simple, small goals for the week and keep them where I can see them. So here it's just basically the last 60 goals that we're focusing on. I also, like I said, like to look at what's coming up that week to know what nights are busy. So for example, like I know I'm going to be shopping in London one day, or I know that I'm going to be busy dealing with something, blah, 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 blah. Just so I know what's coming up. And then I like to just then go and I plug in my dinners from my monthly plan. So I'm not trying to come up with those. They're already on my monthly plan. I stick them in. And then I plan that consistent, healthy breakfast that keeps me full and satisfied. So that's the big thing. If you're having a bowl of cereal and milk and you're feeling hungry an hour later, it's not working, right? Or you're having yogurt and berries and maybe your yogurt's a little bit too sugary and you're feeling hungry later. Make sure that it's something that's going to be balanced and keep you full and satisfied. So I like to have my Shakeology. I like to stick some spinach in there, sometimes a banana, and then I'll have it with, some kind of carb. Now, the other thing I do, I was talking about before, is I make these lunch options because they're going to be things that I plug in based off of often what we're having for dinner, because I'm trying not, to make sure that I'm eating in a balanced way and making sure I'm getting all my food groups in. So some of my examples for lunch options are breakfast sandwiches, leftovers, wraps, eggs, soup, those kinds of things. And I love to make my lunches really easy. And I love to just have things like, say, for example, if I was going to make eggs, I would have chopped veggies that I could just put on a plate with them. And there we go. I've got protein, I've got some veggies, and then maybe I'll have fruit for a carb, or I'll have like a good fiber-filled carb with it. But it makes life really easily. And I often will work backwards from dinner. Like I said, if I'm following portion fix, so if I'm making sure that I'm getting all my containers in, or use plate it if I'm doing to be mindset. Both are pretty interchangeable. You'll probably eat similar amounts on both, but that's how I do the weekly one. That's what it looks like. So that's all I have for you. And I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. But I really love this system. And like I said, it has worked so well for our family after so many years of me kind of troubleshooting it and it not working super well, and lots of arguments and lots of getting stressed out and just going to the drive-thru out of anger and those sorts of things. So hopefully this was helpful, and hope you have a great day. Take care.